Hi guys, today you're going to be working with word problems with the Pythagorean Theorem. But in order to make sure you're ready for that, I have two sample problems up here on the board for your warm-up today. It says to find the missing length of the triangle and then to round your answer to the nearest tenth. So remember, that would be one place after the decimal point. Remember, most important thing with these problems before you get started is to make sure you're drawing your arrow to make sure it points to whatever side is the hypotenuse. So remember, the hypotenuse always has to be by itself. So just to get you started on this problem here, we would set this up like 6 squared plus 9 squared equals x squared. And then for this problem, again, the hypotenuse has to be all by itself, so 12 has to be by itself, so it would be x squared plus 10 squared equals 12 squared. So take some time right now and solve each one of these problems, and in a moment, you'll see what the correct answers are. So if you can just pause this video until you're ready. Alright guys, here are the correct answers for your warm-up question. If you take a look after you simplified, you would end up with 117 equals x squared. Remember, to get rid of a square, you have to square root. Do it to both sides because they have an equation. Everything has to stay balanced. When you type in the square root of 117 into your calculator, it's probably going to give you back 3 square roots of 13, but in order to get rid of that, you hit that double arrow button to get it to a decimal. So 10.87 centimeters would be the correct answer. Number 2, solving's a little bit different after you simplify. To get the x squared term all by itself, you have to subtract 100 from both sides, and you would be left with x squared equals 44. Again, to get rid of the square, you have to square root both sides, and your answer would be in decimal form, x equals 6.6 inches. All right, for today, like I said, we are going to be looking at some word problems with this. So take a moment to copy down the title of your lesson, which would be Using the Pythagorean Theorem. And your essential question is, how can you use the Pythagorean Theorem to solve real-life problems? So again, you might want to pause the video right now to catch up to make sure that you can write down both the title of your lesson and the essential question. All right, with all of the word problems that you guys are going to be learning in this lesson, you should be pretty much drawing right triangles for all of the pictures so that you're labeling correct parts. So if we look at this first one, it says the park is 5 miles east of your home. The library is 4 miles north of the park. How far is your home from the library? And then it says to round your answer to the nearest tenth. So what I would do is I would draw a picture. So here's your home. You're going to love my artwork. Okay, there's your home. All right, and it says the park is 5 miles east of your home. I'm not going to even attempt to draw a park. So here we go. I'm just going to write the word park. All right, I know that the distance between the two of those is going to be 5 miles. It says the library is 4 miles north of the park. So I'm going to put the library up here because that's north. And again, draw this picture. It's very helpful. It's 4 miles north of the park, so that would be 4 miles. What we're trying to figure out is how far is it from your home to the library. Well, if I connect this picture that I now have a right triangle, and we're trying to figure out what that missing distance is. So in order for us to do that, let's write a let statement. Let x equal the distance from your home to the library. And now it's just a simple Pythagorean Theorem problem. Oh, I don't think my pen's going to reach for library. Oh, there it will. Okay, there we go. So then the next thing you guys got to do is set up a Pythagorean Theorem problem. Again, draw the line to show where the hypotenuse is. So that means x is going to be all by itself when you set this up. So you would have 5 squared plus 4 squared equals x squared. So 5 squared is 25. 4 squared is 16. And we're going to solve. So 25 and 16 is going to give you 41. But that equals x squared. So remember, to get rid of a square, you have to square root to both sides. And we're going to leave our answer as a decimal. How about we round to the nearest tenth like the directions say? So push that double arrow button. And so I'm going to get 6.4 for x, and the unit in the problem is miles. So we're going to write our answer in a sentence and say the distance, the distance from home to library is 6.4, and the unit in the problem is miles. All right, so let's try another one. Okay, it says to find the height of the firework. They've already given you the picture, and it says again to round your answer to the nearest tenth. All right, so if I'm looking at this is you viewing the firework. Okay, this would be your sight line distance. This is how far you are, the 300 meters from where they're actually setting off the fireworks. And this missing distance x here is how high it is to the firework. However, we have to be careful with this 1.5. We're going to need to factor that in a little bit later. So right now, let's write down that let x equal missing height. Because it's not the total height. It's just the picture that's given to us. So if I'm using Pythagorean Theorem, drawing that line to the hypotenuse, I see that 335 has to be by itself. So I'm going to do x squared plus 300 squared equals 335 squared. So using my calculator, I'm going to keep the x squared. 300 squared is going to give me 90,000. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for 335. So 335 squared is 112,225. All right, to start solving that, remember we have to subtract 90,000 from both sides to get x squared all by itself. So I'm going to get x squared equals, okay, well I'm going to do that number that I had before minus 90,000. And I'm going to get 2,225, so 22,225. I know that answer doesn't even make sense because the longest side has to be 335. So remember, the last step in these problems is you have to square root those sides. So square root that answer. So square root 22,225. And we're going to get an answer of x equaling 149.1 if we round correctly. So 149.1 meters. That's just our answer for x. We want the total height of the firework. So the last thing that we have to do is factor in that 1.5. So we're going to do 149.1 plus 1.5. And that will give us our total height of the firework. So 149.1 plus 1.5 gives us 150.6, and we know our answer is in meters. We're just going to write our answer in a sentence. So we're going to say the height of the firework is 150.6 meters. For example 3 and for the rest of today's lesson, we're going to move on to the next video. So if whoever is doing this right now, if you could just pause this video and move on to the next one so the kids can get the rest of the notes.